Hello everyone, I thought I'd just do a little video of last year's planting. I planted the seeds in the fall of last year, 2014, and then the trees were planted throughout the winter and even into the spring some, and then this grass was planted in May. So generally, I think we've had pretty good success with getting the flowers and the ground covers, nitrogen fixers established. You can see there. Those were planted in the second half of October, which there's still quite a bit of grass and weeds, but I think by planting them later, it did help decrease that some. All this really tall stuff here, this is fennel mostly, which I hadn't planted it before and didn't quite realize how big it was going to get. It's really huge. It really dominated everything, although it does seem that underneath it, because it dominated so much, it somewhat suppressed the grasses but allowed some of the other ground covers to get established. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year, if that fennel really comes back to the same level, or if the things that have been on the bottom slowly getting established will start to more dominate in the future. But that really came up really thick in some areas. I mean, it was a little too much. Over here we've got the Maximilian sunflowers. They did really well. They seem to always do really well when you do them from just pulling them up from previous plantings, kind of like root cuttings almost. On this berm here, this was planted in the dry area mix. I think it was Vermont Wild Seed Farms got the dry area mix. In the spring, this looked great. It looked like it was established the best. But unfortunately, most of those things that were planted don't seem to have really reseeded or been perennial. And so it looked great in the spring, but it doesn't look so great now. It looks like we're going to have weeds and grasses that are becoming more established there. Versus on the other side where we planted, everything was only perennial. We didn't plant any annuals. The longer term things are much better established. On this little hill here, this was chicory, mostly chicory on there. There were a bunch of seeds that were thrown onto it, but chicory was the main one. It really came out really, really lush, and it's coming out lush again. Chicory's kind of a salad green, so there's a lot of salad there. The pomegranates that were planted on the south side of this little hill seem to have done pretty well. They did not get knocked back too heavy. Our last winter was cold, but it wasn't incredibly cold, so we'll see. It was definitely a good first year for them. They've gotten their root system established quite a bit. Same with that small little fig over there. This grass is buffalo grass. It got really well established here. I planted this in, I guess it was the first week of June. Really, it can be like the second to third week of May is the earliest you can plant it. Soil temperature needs to be high enough. It was really well established. But over here, I had the irrigation on this, and I let it sit on there for 6 weeks or more. And so it wasn't until, I guess, either the last part of July that I got this area planted with buffalo grass, and it just didn't come up. The heat in July and August really prevented it from getting lush. But there is quite a bit of seeds that did sprout. You can see all of this. This is it. And like that one there, starting to get runners that are going out. Well, definitely a lot more weeds in here. From my previous experience with this grass, if you keep this mowed, you can basically mow back the weeds, and it'll really cover an area and hopefully become a pretty lush grass pad. It just may take a year or so. You can see in this area where it's really starting to take over more. You've got a lot more of the larger grass things that are sending out quite a few runners, like this one, for example. I mean, it's starting really to run. And when they all start doing that, then there'll still be weeds in there, but if you mow those weeds down, you'll be giving it the advantage, and it should come to dominate. There's a cat, Snowy. This area is interesting in that it got really well watered just due to the way that the land is. I left it where there were quite a few just kind of little ups and downs and bumps and holes and everything, so whenever it got watered, it really held the water. In some areas, the grasses seem to have done really well, which is surprising, but in other areas, the flowers and the ground covers and nitrogen fixers seem to have done really well, and I haven't really been able to see the pattern of why that was. For example, this area right here has very little grass, and that's all some sort of ground covers that I've planted, versus right over there is almost dominated completely by grasses. So it's kind of a mystery as to why that happened. The area over on the other side of the pond there, that's my son in the background. That area was not fully weed killed before we planted all of the ground cover seeds, just due to it being on the back of a hill and not being able to get a plow in there to cut it up the ground and kill all the weeds back. It's just the way it was. And you can definitely see the difference. It is a weed city in there. I'm not really too concerned about it because I'm trying to get bamboo established in there, and if it does get established, it's going to dominate everything. It'll take a while, but it could potentially cover the whole area. Speaking of bamboo, it seems to be pretty healthy. From my experience with bamboo so far, it just doesn't grow a whole lot on the above ground side the first year or two. It seems like it just spends its time getting its roots established, and then it can go, it'll start growing on the above ground, but it seems like it spends its time just getting its base going. This is the asparagus patch. Seems to have done pretty well, although there's quite a few grasses in there. It'll need to be weeded over the coming years to get that stand really pure, but it's still pretty good right now. The asparagus was planted so thick and has grown so well that it's really outcompeted most grasses and weeds. Some of the other trees have done really well. It's just interesting seeing which species do well in which soils. There's a bumblebee. You can see it. So that's kind of the update. This is the fall of 2015, and this planting right here is 1 year old, so it's real young, but it seems like it got a pretty good start this first year. Thanks for watching.